I missed a lot of the hype of Birdbox. Like I didn't get it. Like I saw a lot of like the memes and shit like that online and stuff like that, and I didn't. It like kind of like went over my head. Like it was like I know something's out that people are like buzzing about, you know, whether it be positive or negative, whatever. I don't know. It just went over my head, and I wasn't like paying too much attention to it until I saw this one meme that said it was a picture of Sandra Bullock next to a picture of Michael Jackson, and somebody tweeted, "Yo, the lady from Bird Box looks a lot like Michael Jackson," which, whatever, kind of funny. And in those two photographs, they actually did look pretty similar. But what got me is there was like a quote tweet, like a reply to that tweet or whatever, or like a retweet with a comment, or I don't know like what you call that exactly, but that person said, "How old am I that Sandra Bullock is known as, quote, the lady from Bird Box?" And I found that like really funny. And I was thinking like the same shit, like, yo, for real, that's nuts. Sandra Bullock is like one of the dopest actresses, and to be known as that, it's like, fuck, we are getting old. But then I guess I started like zeroing in more on the fact that Bird Box was a movie and it was on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. Then my sister-in-law was talking about it, that she saw it and she liked it, and my brother-in-law also. And I watched it, and I know a lot of people were comparing it to A Quiet Place. They were saying it's like that type of movie. And I kind of get the comparison in that, you know, it's a dystopian future, catastrophic world-ending event type of shit going on. But I fucking hated A Quiet Place. Like, I really didn't like it. I know I spoke about it in a previous episode of the podcast. So, yeah, if you're interested in my in-depth thoughts on A Quiet Place, feel free to go check it out. A Quiet Place, I would raise it one more notch from my previous, I guess, review of it. Just because, and I didn't catch this until my wife told me the other day, because like I told you guys in an episode or two ago, I started watching The Office for the first time, which I had never seen. She mentioned to me while we were watching A Quiet Place that the main guy, the father, is somebody from The Office, but I had never seen The Office, so I was just like, whatever, you know, it literally didn't mean anything to me. And when I started watching The Office, I didn't make that connection because I guess like the beard or whatever that he has in A Quiet Place and does not have in The Office. But she told me the other day again, she was like, see, that's the guy I was telling you, Jim from The Office, that's in A Quiet Place. I was like, oh shit, that's nuts. It like blew my mind a little bit. And Jim's hilarious on The Office, and one of the like most likable characters on the show. So just on the strength of that, it made me like A Quiet Place a bit more, just because of the range of acting. But yeah, back to Bird Box, because I still thought A Quiet Place was not complete dog shit, but yeah, I didn't like it. All right, Bird Box, aside from those similarities, which there's dozens, probably hundreds of movies, you know, similar to that, you know, dystopian futures where the world is ending type of shit. So to say that this is a just like biting off of A Quiet Place, it's like, I guess, but you're probably just saying that more so based on the recency effect. Like this, A Quiet Place just came out like last year or the year before, and Bird Box just came out now. Or about like War of the Worlds or World War Z or whatever. Anyway, so in Bird Box, spoiler alert by the way, if you guys haven't listened to previous episodes of the Spun Today podcast, when I do review movies or shows or whatever, like I usually like speak about scenes from them and spoil shit for you guys. So if you haven't watched it yet and you want to, I would recommend skipping ahead a few minutes in case I do spoil shit for you. But the synopsis of the movie is that some shit starts happening in Russia, somewhere across the globe, and people, it's on the news, and it's on the news as like mass suicides, and like thousands of people are committing suicide, and they do not know what to attribute it to. And Sandra Bullock is the main protagonist, and she's pregnant, and she is at the hospital, getting a checkup, and her sister meets her there, and they're leaving the hospital, and Sandra Bullock sees like this freaky look in some woman's eyes, and the woman starts like just banging her head against the wall, and she starts like bleeding, but she seems like she's a fucking zombie or something. She's just like banging her head against the glass, and then Sandra Bullock kind of sort of like freaks out, but she runs out because her sister was like in the car, like waiting for her. She went to get the car, and Sandra Bullock notices that a car like crashed, and then she noticed like a couple other people like around her, like acting oddly similar, but like getting into accidents or like hurting themselves. And she gets in the car and she tells her sister to go, and what's happening in Russia, it's happening here now, just go. And while they're driving, within a few blocks, they see like other cars like slamming into each other and running red lights and being reckless, and shit hit the fan basically. Her sister is driving and sees something. This is where like the big similarity, I guess, is between Birdbox and A Quiet Place, is that in A Quiet Place the premise is you can't make noise, you gotta keep quiet, if not these monsters eat you. In Birdbox, it's you can't, instead of playing off the sensation of sound, of hearing, they play off of the sense of sight. And you can't look at these things that we as the audience don't see either. We can't see, but we see when people do see the thing, and they find it like glorious and stay looking at it, and they're like hypnotized by it, and soon after will like stab themselves in the neck or jump off of a building or jump up in front of a bus or whatever, and they commit suicide basically, which is where the whole narrative of mass suicides came from when they were reporting it on the news. So long story shorter, everybody in the mother is dying. They start catching on to, Sandra Bullock congregates with some strangers, pretty much. Like a handful of strangers are wind up being in this house, and Little Rel is in it, which is cool and funny. He's always good in stuff that he's in. MGK is in it. Machine Gun Kelly is in it for a bit. Who else? The dude from Moonlight, the main character from Moonlight. I don't know his name. He was in it as well. He's one of the main characters. Like, winds up being like a love interest of Sandra Bullock. There was like this mean old white dude in it that reminded me of Schillinger from Oz, the HBO prison show. I don't know if you guys ever watched that, but that character reminded me of, and it was a pretty dope cast, a pretty well put together ensemble, I thought. Two little kids that are in it are adorable. The little girl just looks like a human cupcake or something. So they pretty much catch on to the fact that these suicides and deaths and stuff happen when they start looking at these things that people keep looking at. So whenever they go someplace, they got to go blindfolded to avoid seeing these things. And they like black out all the windows and cover all the windows with like newspaper and paint and shit like that. And it was really suspenseful, like throughout the whole thing. That's what I found like one of the biggest differences were between A Quiet Place and this, is that the suspense for me, for my taste, for my liking, wasn't like ramped up. It wasn't built up in A Quiet Place. Like A Quiet Place was a lot slower paced, I felt, which I guess added to the lackluster suspense. Whereas Birdbox, I thought, did a much better job of delivering in that. They figure out along the way that crazy people or people that have like mental illness issues, they see the thing that, you know, is making everybody commit suicide. They're able to like see it, but it doesn't kill them, or rather, it doesn't make them kill themselves, and probably because they're like fucked up in the head and whatever. So these people wind up, instead of dying, they wind up being like friendlies or familiars to that thing, and trying to infiltrate other people that are hiding, you know, because, you know, they come off as normal, but they're actually crazy and have the ultimate goal of exposing these people to that thing that they're otherwise, you know, not trying to look at. Then at the end, they're saved by getting together with this. They had like these walkie-talkies, as they do in like these types of movies where people like try to communicate with anybody that's out there. Hello, are you out there? Type of thing. And they catch a signal one day, and it's from a group of people that are, I guess, like down south somewhere from where they are, and they have to like go like whitewater rafting type of shit to like get there. Sandra Bullock winds up doing that with the two kids, and she gets to this place, you know, obviously has like some trouble along the way which ramps up the suspense, and but ultimately makes it. And these people, it's a house for the blind, and which kind of makes sense. Like they're not, you know, they're good people and they're not affected by this entity that is making people commit suicide that are able to see it. And it's like a shitload of people, and they're like protected in there, and that's pretty much how the movie ends. But I thought it was like a touch more realistic than A Quiet Place as well. Not that movies have to be realistic, because it's a movie. Like you watch a movie because for that purpose, to like suspend disbelief and immerse yourself in the world that the writers and actors and director created for you. That's literally the purpose of it. But it helps when the world that is created has certain consistencies throughout it, which for me was the fact that, you know, not being able to like look or see in certain areas seems more doable than not being able to make a sound in any area ever, especially when you factor in like children and stuff like that. It made more sense within the rules of the world that was created. But yeah, I definitely recommend watching it. It's a Netflix original, which is another reason why it's dope. I love seeing these Netflix original content shows and movies, as well as Prime original shows and movies, and YouTube original shows. I don't think they have a movie on YouTube. Maybe they do, but not any that I've seen. But just these like alternative media outlets and platforms that are doing it at a high level. It's pretty dope to see.